I assure you, I gave you all of it, Doctor. Every penny, and I want it back. You told me it would be absolutely safe in your hands. You did. I remember distinctly. Please. It's very important. I have to have my money back. I can't even pay my hotel bill. I took it out of my safe deposit box over a month ago. You know, I trusted you with everything I have.
Mrs. Gilbert, I assure you I have not had a penny of your money, and certainly not the amount you're accusing me of taking.
But I gave it to you, I remember, to invest in Jersey.
Tell me, Mrs. Gilbert, what day is it today?
Today? It's Tuesday, isn't it? Isn't it?
The confusion is normal for a person of your age. Like the confusion over this money. What would I want with £80,000? Now, I'm going to give you something to calm you down. There you are. Take 3 a day. May will show you out.
Morning, Miss Gilbert. Nice day.
Mr. Robertson, good morning. Just been for my morning walk. Lovely.
Not past the bank, by any chance? If I had my way, Mrs. Gilbert, none of you long-term residents would have to bother about the rent. But my bosses are very insistent. Seaview Holdings doesn't run on thin air. I did ask you over 6 weeks ago, Mrs. Gilbert, if you could see your way to paying.
Yes, yes, of course. You've been so kind and very accommodating. I'll just go to my room and see what I can do about it. This is Mrs. Gilbert here. I'd like to speak to Mrs. Moon personally, to see if she could give me some advice. It is all right to talk on the telephone, is it?
Gladys is out, I'm afraid. But if it's about an appointment, I could make one for you.
Perhaps it's too late now, anyway.
Too late for what, Mr. Gilbert?
Somebody in a hurry to have their fortune told?
She sounded quite ancient. Don't suppose they reckon they've got much time left to hear Gladys's good tidings.
Come along, Picklim.
I make them myself. Do you like the design?
Yes, it's interesting.
We found it tucked away inside a drawer. So that would make her a client, wouldn't it?
Was it an accident?
No, she left a suicide note to her daughter. Brief and to the point. Goodbye, I love you.
What time does she jump?
Why? What difference would that make?
She was on the phone a couple of hours ago.
So you did know her then, Gladys?
Well, there's no Mrs. Gilbert on my books. Poor old love.
She sounded a bit upset.
She didn't say why?
No, she just muttered something about it being too late, and then she rang off.
Someone must have given her that card. I do have a wide reputation.
So, neither of you can explain her death.
You mentioned her daughter. Can she not shed some light?
Well, she might, but she just left Melbourne 2 hours ago.
Mrs. Gilbert was one of my favourite patients. Such a dear soul. A gentlewoman in every sense of the word.
We found one of your prescriptions in her room, dated today.
Ah, yes. Sadly, she was here just before lunch.
Lofepramine hydrochloride, 70 milligrams. It's expensive. It's for long-term depression, isn't it?
A mild tranquilizer, yes. If only she'd gone straight to the chemist. What a pity. She was very down in the dumps this morning.
Do you know what it was about?
Oh, it was just general depression. Old age, loneliness. The scourge of the South Coast.
Did she have any other specific worries? Her daughter, perhaps?
Not that I could make out. But then Mrs. Gilbert was never very forthcoming about her private life. She'd been a patient of mine for 4 years. And I don't think she ever even talked about this daughter you mentioned.
Right, Dr. Shan. Thank you very much. You've been very helpful.
Did Mrs. Gilbert's note to her daughter not yield any clues?
I'm afraid not, sir. There was nothing in it, just a few words of farewell.
Sadder still. One tries to take care of the elderly, especially those on their own. That's the Chinese tradition. But here, let me know if I can be of any further help.
I will, sir. And thanks again.
Nice little run around for a doctor.
Yeah. We're in the wrong business.
Mrs. Gilbert was wrong to take her own life. She went against her Tianxin.
Unlucky for her, lucky for us.
As soon as you can arrange to take her things, I'll be grateful. As a solicitor, I'm sure you understand the owners.
Yes, Mr. Robertson, I know all about Seaview Holdings' Heart of Gold.
She got round me on that one. No pets allowed, but we let her keep the bird.
So where is it?
She must have freed it before, Well, I will leave you to it. Just bring the key back down.
She used to say she might come to Australia. My God, she'd have found a better life than this.
It's not a bad view, though.
Did you say nothing?
Very little, I'm afraid. I checked with the bank. Current account in the red, small insurance policy as collateral, and a few shares.
Safe deposit box?
It was cleared out recently. No record of what she had in it, naturally.
When my father died, he left a hefty sum 6 years ago. Then she moved down here and lived like a nun. I never got on with either of my parents. But what the hell's happened to her money? More precisely, mine.
If it's off Beachy Head, it isn't news. But if it's in the street and the roof of a £30,000 Porsche stove in, it is.
You don't find it funny, do you?
No, I don't.
Why? Because you spoke to her?
Because I didn't stop her.
How could you?
Oh, Gladys often says if you're in the fortune business, you sometimes have to be a Samaritan.
Then join them.
And I might just do that.
Meanwhile, I have to go back to France.
As I told you, you're named as sole beneficiary.
Heir to a big fat nothing. So where's it gone, Mr. Cave?
I wish I could help. Perhaps she had bad advice, invested unwisely.
Advice from whom?
I only drew up her will.
An astrologer, maybe? Sergeant Evers told me about a phone call that she made just before she killed herself. And a fortune teller's card among her things. A Mrs. Moon.
Gladys?
You know this woman?
Indeed I do.
The police questioned her, but she said she never knew my mother. She could have been lying.
Oh, I can't see why Gladys Moon would do that.
Unless she does know what became of the money.
Oh, by the way, I should point out, your mother made a rather odd request in that will. She asked for a Chinese funeral. Old ladies get some funny ideas.
But that's wackier than most.